Hey everybody, Kurtenbach and Kruger here at the KMBR studios in San Francisco. 49ers and the Bears coming up for you 10 a.m. on Sunday, 7 a.m. Grab a Polish sausage, have breakfast with Larry Kruger and the gang on the KMBR morning show. This is a game that probably going into the season probably carried a lot more meaning than it does now. Two teams kind of meddled in the middle of mediocrity. Kind of one of those games that I think a lot of 49ers fans will use as a checkpoint in the progress this team has made compared to kind of their peers, and especially when you consider that Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator, Adam Gase, who was pretty much set up to be the 49ers head coach before a last-minute change, is their offensive coordinator. John Fox, who never really got a fair shake here in San Francisco for the head coaching job, is over there. If the 49ers lose to the Bears on Sunday, you have to imagine that, the already pretty bad public outcry about the state of the 49ers will get worse considering the circumstances.
Well, and it's going to be a tough game. I mean, Chicago's not an easy place to play. They're playing well, and it's going to be cold weather. And, you've got some motivated coaches in Adam Gase and Vic Fangio, or they may not say it, but I'm sure they're going to, whatever effort they can get out of their team this week, I mean, they would love to win this game and win it big. So the 49ers defensively are two different teams, home and road. Mm-hmm. They're 3-3 at home. They're 0-5 on the road. At home, they allow about 15 points a game. On the road, they allow 35 points a game and almost 5 yards a carry. So, the old saying, Vic Fangio's defense used to travel, but Eric Mangini's defense doesn't get through customs or doesn't get through
can't even buy the boarding pass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about it, but the 49er defense, now granted, it's got a lot of young players on it. If there's been a bright spot this year, it's probably the emergence of Gabbert and the young defenders. Right. But, man, home and road splits for this defense have been night and day, and that's going to have to change, or this is going to be a one-sided Bears victory.
The worst part about all of that is, in talking to guys in the locker room after the 49ers lost to the Cardinals on Sunday, they have no idea why that's the case. They can't put their finger on it. It's not atmosphere. It's not young guys not being able to handle a road environment. No one has any idea why that is. It might be a statistical anomaly where they're playing good teams on the road, but it's so lopsided it doesn't make much sense. We've talked about Blaine Gabbert a lot, pretty much the only thing to talk about until we see some more progress from other guys, but he's the center point of pretty much every conversation with the 49ers right now. This Bears defense has gotten a lot better throughout the season. They're really kind of coming into their own now despite some injuries, and they traded Jared Allen mid-season. What can he do, especially knowing that Garrett Selleck might not play? It's probably him and Vance McDonald against the world on Sunday. What can he do to really open up that Niners offense, which, while it's looked better, hasn't really been all that great, to be honest?
Yeah, I mean, the question is, what has happened to the 49er run game the last couple of weeks? Sean Drone has shown that he can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he's actually a decent little weapon out of the backfield. Yeah. But they haven't run the ball with any success. Now, the line's been poor. Carlos Hyde's hurt, so there are reasons for why they've struggled, but that's a big one. I don't understand why they're struggling in that area as much. As far as Gabbert, I think Gabbert has shown a steady improvement. Mm-hmm. I've seen him get better in every game that he's played. Yeah. I don't think we've seen him regress. So that, I think, is the most encouraging part of the 49er offense. Is he a world beater? No. But is he a serviceable NFL quarterback? I would say the answer is closer to yes than no. And I know there were an awful lot of people that were really down on him from the 5-22 record and 27 starts in Jacksonville, and justifiably so. He was as bad, Dieter, as any quarterback I think I've ever seen. Yeah. In over 27
Well, that was stretch. As bad of a team as there's ever been in the NFL for my money. But he's
found himself as far as he's not that quarterback anymore. He's a different quarterback. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but I'm really interested to see on the road, in bad weather, against a defense that's improving, does Gabbert continue to ascend and continue to improve? And to me, this is a significant game because if he does in this setting continue to improve, I think they really have something with Gabbert. Now, I know there are a lot of people who are saying, Krug, pump the brakes. This guy is not that great. I get it.
I can see the Jared Goff comments rolling in.
I get that. This. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't go for a Jared Goff, but you look at some of the other top-tier players that are going to be on the board when they do pick in the draft come April.
Right.
Ronnie Stanley is really the guy they need. the Notre Dame offensive tackle is a guy that you can plug and play, and he might be a Pro Bowler for the next decade.
Right.
That's going to be a really tough thing to pass up for a quarterback that you're not sure about, especially if Gabbert continues to play well. So it's going to be interesting. Then the latest talk today is that the 49ers are one of 3 teams kicking tires and showing interest in Johnny Manziel. I don't know where that report comes from.
It came from Schefter,
but it's interesting.
Come on.
Yeah, but I know it came from Schefter, but I just don't know exactly if there's credence to it.
The case, it doesn't fit the scheme. It's
I don't know what the
winning
scheme,
with class doesn't exactly
does
play
Gabbert
there.
fit the scheme?
Well, he's certainly done a lot better than the previous quarterback, who the scheme was more or less built around.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a Kaepernick scheme that Gabbert's running.
Right.
I'd like to see what the 49. I'd like to see Gabbert play for the next month, and then at that point, I think I'll have a better idea if he's the guy, or if he is a guy that you want to compete for a job, or if he is the backup solely.
Right.
He's on the books for $2 million next year, which is backup
You
money.
keep him.
But so he'll be there.
Right.
He's going to be on the roster. It's just a matter of, do you have him in a competition for the starting spot? Do you have him awarded the starting spot? Or do you rip that thing away from him and say you're the number 2 quarterback? And I think all that will be determined in the remaining games in the regular season this year.
It's a really good game to kind of decide which direction it's going. You know which way you're swimming in the sea of indecision with this game, because Jay Cutler is a very maligned quarterback and kind of that guy who's teetering on the fence between a surefire starter or a guy who they want to run out of town. No one's really sure where Jay Cutler fits. He's stuck in that limbo of NFL quarterbacks. It's not apples to apples, but if Blaine Gabbert has a better game than Jay Cutler on Sunday, then there's at least some credence to the argument of maybe we ride with Blaine Gabbert for a while here after this season, get a young guy in, let them battle it out at the end of next year, or, who the hell knows from here on out. But it lends credence to maybe Blaine Gabbert could start for this team next year, which, let's be honest, I don't think anyone really thought that was going to be the case when Blaine took over. I thought it was an audition for him to get a job somewhere else next year. Maybe they could trade him for something, get something going on a rebuild. He's been impressive enough to at least merit himself to be part of that conversation. But
there's 2 philosophies.
Yeah.
One is build up your roster around your quarterback, and the other is if you don't have a franchise quarterback, you better be hell bent on getting a franchise quarterback. Now, I won't say that I'm convinced that Blaine Gabbert's a franchise quarterback,
No.
but I do think that it's an open discussion at this juncture, and I think they're still ready for some more evaluation. I can't say definitively that he is the franchise quarterback, but I also can't say definitively that he's not. And I think people who are saying definitively that he's not are rushing to judgment. I don't think there's been enough of an evaluation yet. I don't think we've seen enough games to really make that determination yet.
where do you stand on Alex Smith? Because I feel like we're kind of rehashing the entire Kaepernick versus Alex Smith conversation. Gabbert has a lot of characteristics like Alex Smith, except, he throws interceptions every now and again. Game manager, you build around. He won't lose you a game, might not win you a game, but if you have a good team, you're going to be in the playoff contention with Alex Smith, and I would argue Blaine Gabbert at this point. I'm personally of the belief that quarterback, you look at what happened in Seattle this year, everyone knows that Russell Wilson's a really good player, but they gave him so much money that they had to lose depth at other positions, and they've gotten worse because of that. I think that's maybe the biggest market inefficiency in football right now. Unless you have Tom Brady, or unless you have Andrew Luck, which that isn't exactly working out great. Quarterbacks are paid so much of the salary cap that you can't really build that deep of a team around them. And so maybe it is best to have one of those middle-level quarterbacks and a really good team around him. I don't know which direction the 49ers are going to go. I don't think anyone knows what direction the 49ers are going right now, including the 49ers, and a lot will be determined as the season progresses. But you have to consider the notion that Blaine Gabbert's pretty damn good at this, and that he might give the 49ers the best chance to win, not only this week and for the rest of the season, but going forward.
Yeah, I think he's better than Alex Smith.
Yeah.
I really do.
He's more dynamic.
Well, he's got a better arm.
Yeah.
Alex Smith had, really struggled to get the ball to the deep quadrants of the field with anything, any kind of accuracy. His accuracy just went south as soon as you had to push the ball 15 to 20 yards down the field. So I do see some of the check down, be safe with the football characteristics that Alex took to a crazy level in
Right.
Kansas City and even his late years here. But I also see a better arm, and I think I see a little bit more accurate passer on every throw. Really, I don't think Smith was all that accurate on the underneath stuff or on the downfield stuff. So I see a better arm talent quarterback, a bigger guy, and yet I think those are decent comparisons because
Yeah.
I think Smith was a little hesitant to let it rip, and I see a little bit of that with Gabbert. But then I kind of wonder how much of that is the fact that he doesn't have great surrounding cast, he doesn't have a legit starting running back, he doesn't have a great offensive line.
Nope.
Smith operated under a phenomenal line, and
And Smith's mandate was just don't lose. Let everyone else win
Play
the game.
smart football.
Don't lose us the game. And that's a tough way to play because if you're not playing with aggression, oftentimes you are aggressed upon. And for better or worse, it didn't work out here. It's worked out fine in Kansas City. The only thing that I can knock on Blaine Gabbert, and this is maybe something that comes with more games, is when he wants to go deep, he underthrows it a lot, and he's been picked off twice with that thus far this year. That's something that he has the arm for it. We've seen him air it out. He hasn't completed anything yet in that area, but there's positivity here. There's nothing that he's missing. Frankly, I think his decision making is good. His arm talent, as you alluded to, is extremely good. He can run.
his numbers against the blitz in the Cardinal game were exceptional.
Excellent.
So that's another indicator for young quarterbacks. How do they do against the blitz? How do they do when you dial up the pressure and you speed up their clock? He seems to be doing pretty well.
Right.
I actually personally feel that this is a guy who could get the job done if they surrounded him with a real strong line, a real strong running game, and a great defense. But, man, that's a tough thing to do, to accumulate that kind of talent. But I think he's, in that regard, he's similar to Alex Smith in that he's not mercurial, but if you surround him with a good cast, I think he's a smart enough guy that he can manage risk versus reward, and I think you can win football games. I think you can be a playoff team with a Blaine Gabbert. So we'll see. This is going to be an interesting game, though, because we haven't seen him really regress.
Right.
And yet on the road, in cold weather situations against improving teams that are still playing hard, we're going to see him in some really, challenging situations in the second half of the year. And if he continues to show steady improvement, I think that'll be a great indication going forward.
We haven't seen him with Carlos Hyde yet, which is probably
I don't want
not
to see
gonna
Carlos
happen.
Hyde anymore
Right.
this year.
Well,
I really don't. I mean, he's got a stress fracture in his foot. He's your best running
either
back.
shut him down
Shut him down.
or put him back in the game because he hasn't practiced since October.
I mean, why would you put him out
I
there?
wouldn't put him out there
I
personally,
wouldn't.
but this week to week indecision nonsense is killing me. I mean, it's pointless. What's
Well, and let's be honest, they found something in Drone. Drone
Right.
is a nice receiver out of the backfield. The one interesting thing with the 49er offense to me is that in the last 2 weeks, they've gone totally away from the run game.
yeah?
They
They're not
were
even
two.
bothering
They were
on
2-1 pass run, and they're a team that likes to be 2-1 run pass.
Right.
So that was a little bit of a surprise, but I like what I've seen out of Drone as a receiver, as a blocker, as a guy who picks up his assignments, and
Yeah.
he clearly has hit the ground running. He's been a real nice player. In fact, I think he's a guy that they can go forward with next year.
Yeah, I would definitely
Maybe a
keep him
Hyde,
next year.
Drone, and a third running back trio.
Right.
I think they found something in Drone, and that's good.
I can imagine why they've gone to this. One, you want to get Blaine more assimilated into the offense. There's a spark when he's throwing the ball, and he makes things happen with his feet. And it takes a little bit of the pressure off of that offensive line to carry a lot of the load, which they probably couldn't if you put it on them. But also, there is no back. I mean, Kendall Gaskins, who if Drone gets hurt and you're running them at a 2-to-1 ratio, who do you have after that? The Gaskins is on the roster. He hasn't seen a snap in a couple weeks, if I recall correctly. I mean,
He's a practice squad guy.
Right.
I mean,
There's
maybe
no one else. Yeah.
The receiving back who played New England and New Orleans. Maybe you'd see him a little bit.
when you have one guy off the scrap heap who's been awesome in Drone, you really don't want to press your luck too much. I mean, it's kind of a 1 in a million shot when we get a guy like that. So I can see why maybe they don't want to put as much emphasis on the run. One, you don't want to expose him to injury, and two, he's been good in the situations that they've tasked him to do, which is, his entire career he's been asked to be kind of a spot guy. He's not a workhorse back, and so when you have to ask him to put in workhorse back snaps, you can't ask him to also be a workhorse. He's never done it before, and you can't expect good production out of it. So I think they'll probably be 2-1, maybe even 3-1 going forward for the rest of the season, because I don't think Carlos Hyde plays again, and frankly they should just call it what it is and shut him down for the year. He's got a lot of good miles left in him. Just start rehabbing the foot now. Just get him out of the whole whirlwind of the week-to-week nonsense. It's pointless.
I don't see the advantage of putting Hyde back out there.
Right.
And
I mean, he's not even going to be 100%. So
the other positive, though, there's one more element that last week I thought was interesting, and that was the emergence of Blake Bell. And you mentioned that Garrett Selleck is dinged this week.
I wouldn't expect him to play.
And so we're going to see more from Blake Bell. Now, I've been a believer that this is the 49ers' best tight end and has been all year, and that they're just now really getting to him. And I think what you're going to find in the last 6 weeks of the year is that this player is going to emerge as not just a decent player, but a foundation piece for their offense going forward. I think he will be their best tight end over Selleck, over any other bodies they put together next year. This guy's a 6'6" player with soft hands and real good football smarts. He's a second-generation NFL player.
Yeah.
And I know he's a little weak. I mean, he had the fewest reps of 225 at the Combine among all quarterbacks, among all tight ends.
Well, he's the same thing.
Because he was a quarterback.
Right.
And he had really low reps. So he needs to improve his upper body strength. He knows that. Through an NFL offseason of heavy lifting and NFL nutrition and all that, I expect he will show up in camp much stronger, much more explosive, maybe a step or two quicker, and I'm really excited about his future. I think he might be the guy that you look back at this draft class and say, yeah, that was the draft they landed Blake Bell. To this point, we're just starting to see him. But
Armstead's been okay.
He's got some real talent.
Hasn't been that bad. I think we were dinging him pretty hard early on this year regarding the draft class. Armstead has situationally been really good. And
I'm going to hold off on giving Armstead any love.
You're anti-Armstead.
I'm not anti-Armstead.
I'm kind of coming into
let's take a look at the one game that he played. Thomas Rawls ran for 200 yards, and they haven't given up that many yards in decades.
Right.
This week, they get a Jeremy Langford, a running back who's also a rookie.
Yeah.
If Langford rolls for 2 bills on the Niner defense,
it's all Eric Armstead's fault.
It may have a lot to do with Armstead not being strong against the run. But
you're not wrong
I like
about that.
Armstead's talent.
Yeah.
I just don't think that you draft talented guys with a lot of rough edges, who are not significant contributors, 17th overall.
I don't disagree with you on that, but he has been better in recent weeks as they've given him more workload. I think he's improved, and I guess we should have all seen that coming. It was pretty short-sighted, at least on my behalf, to think, well, this guy might be a bust. It was like 5 games into the year, but Bell's been good. If he's going to be the guy that you think he can be, and I'm not exactly as optimistic as you, just remembering him from Oklahoma and the fact that he hasn't played tight end a lot, and that's a fairly nuanced position. This would be a good week to do it because I think it's going to be McDonald and Gabbert versus the world. I like McDonald. I like what he's shown thus far. Obviously, the touchdowns show up on the stat sheet, but he's been a really solid player for the Niners all year. He's been getting snaps even when he was 3rd on the depth chart. So, if anything, fantasy implications, pick up Vance McDonald. I mean,
I would.
Or Blake Bell if you're listening to Larry.
I would say you may be hurting if you're looking for either of these guys.
Well, you are because you have Gronk and you drafted him first. I'm not. This is not personal or anything.
Well, the other one though, I'll take away one positive, one negative. The positive being Blake Bell, the negative being Eli Harold. I mean, Eli Harold looks like a bust at this point. He doesn't sack the quarterback. No strength in the hands. No bull rush to his game whatsoever. Everything with a pass rusher is predicated on the bull rush. If you can't bull rush somebody, then guess what? You're not beating him to the edge and you're not knifing back inside. So there's a kid who really needs to lift some weights and get his stronger from the elbow to the fingertip because Eli Harold right now is a total non-factor and there's reps
and he
there
started
for
last
him.
week.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who's got an opportunity. It's there for him. To this point, he hasn't run through that door. So we'll see if he can do it. I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
He looks like a speed rusher strictly, but we'll see. We'll see.
Here's how bad Eli Harold has been this year. Corey Lemonnier is still on this roster.
Yeah.
It's been rough. We'll find out if the 49ers have anything more to show us this season because kind of we're running out of ideas at this point. 49ers and Bears, 10 a.m. Larry Kruger's going to be on the air with you at 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Oh.
Breakfast with the Krugs, KMBR 680. And Australia, hey guys, Jared Hay might be coming back. Who knows? We'll deal with that later. Good night.